As if it should be a shock to anybody, word leaks out from a former journalist who reportedly worked with Facebook on their trending news section. The massive social media site was allegedly, and according to these reports, tossing out news and stories from conservative websites, including Newsmax.com. In other words, allegedly breaking every and any journalistic ethic and keeping what they disregard with from being part of their service that they didn't agree with. Now, we're going to talk about that and get your comments at 1-877-NEWSMAX, specifically this issue about Facebook going after conservative websites and blocking the news as trending. If you're going to talk about that, we're going to move you right to the front of the line because we're going to get right to it here momentarily, plus everything else. So get on that. 1-877-NEWSMAX. In a few moments, we'll deal with you right after Miranda Khan sets the stage. Miranda?
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about this, but here's a story you may not see pouring all over your news feed. A U.S. Senate committee launches an inquiry following reports a social media site censored its trending news to exclude, as you just mentioned, Ed, conservative sources like Newsmax.
For the most part, we all try to get along.
The 2016 presidential election was a top trending story on Facebook last year. And with Pew Research reporting that 63% of Facebook users already consider the social media site a news source, Facebook is doing its part to make sure that trend continues.
To find the other side of the story, or realize there's actually 17 sides to the story.
But if that side of the story leans right, some former Facebook employees known as news curators say you may not hear about it. The so-called whistleblowers sounded the alarm to Gizmodo, accusing the social media site of suppressing conservative news. It was absolutely biased. It just depends on who the curator is and what time of day it is. In other words, instead of this,
find out what everyone's saying and sharing and liking
what has happened to our
and
party?
Not liking.
The unidentified curator says stories covered by conservative outlets like Newsmax that were trending enough to be picked up by Facebook's algorithm were excluded unless mainstream sites like the New York Times covered the same stories. In the words of the former curator, it wasn't trending news at all, it was an opinion.
If that turns out to be true, it's very disappointing, and I think it undermines the credibility of Facebook.
One group especially not liking the idea of conservative censorship is the GOP, posting this statement on its site. With 167 million U.S. Facebook users reading stories highlighted in the trending section, Facebook has the power to greatly influence the presidential election. It is beyond disturbing to learn that this power is being used to silence viewpoints and stories that don't fit someone else's agenda. Censorship in any form should give Americans who value their fundamental freedoms great pause. And pause Facebook did, offering this statement in response to those allegations. We found no evidence that the anonymous allegations are true. Facebook does not allow or advise our reviewers to systematically discriminate against sources of any ideological origin, and we've designed our tools to make that technically not feasible. Violating our guidelines is a fireable offense.
We want America to be great.
And Ed, Newsmax CEO Chris Ruddy is also weighing in on Facebook, possibly targeting Newsmax and other conservative outlets. You can read his thoughts by visiting our website, Newsmax.com. And Ed, just for the record, I think it's fair to say your Facebook posts are always trending.
That's only because you read them from time to time and you know the kind of discourse that goes on that page on a regular basis. Miranda, thanks a lot for pointing that out. I'm sure it'll get even better now. Yeah. All right, let's get to it now. 1-877-NEWSMAX. Let's get your reaction to all this here, because there's a couple of things. And again, if you want to talk about this specifically, we're going to move you up to the top of the line because we want to focus on this. You are the voters. You are the people who look for news. There's a couple of things that we need to bring in here. This is editorial decision, but it's also stopping the delivery of news. Here's one of the issues to discuss in here. Let's remember something, people. Facebook is not a news site. It's a rumor site filled with cat videos. I mean, that's really what it is, but it's become massively popular around the world, so it has become a news effort, if you will, where some people actually get their news from. A lot of people, as they are younger now, probably 20s, 30s, 40s, they get their news from here. Here's something else I want to drop in here. 1-877-NEWSMAX is your number to call. But here's something else. The Facebook Vice President of Search. Now, Miranda had some of this, but I want you to see a little bit more of this as Facebook is backing up and their statement that they talked about late today. that we take these reports seriously. No evidence that they're true. Of course they would say that. Rigorous guidelines in place to ensure consistency and neutrality, which is interesting because left-leaning sites such as the Daily Kos and Raw Story, which are filled with inaccuracies, don't seem to have a problem getting through. The guidelines do not permit suppression of political perspectives, nor do they permit prioritization. Guidelines do not prohibit any news outlet from appearing in trending topics, which is not what the individual in question here says. These have been other anonymous allegations we artificially forced, they say, hashtag Black Lives Matter to trend. They say we didn't do that either. We don't instruct our reviewers to do so. So technically, Facebook is backing up on all of this. But is there any question that Facebook and other sites, such as the ones I mentioned, will specifically keep out conservative views? Why? They don't fit with what they want the people to understand. 1-877-NEWSMAX, 1-877-NEWSMAX. Get in here right now. We got about 3 minutes to do this. Your comments on all this. Sam from 29 Palms, California. You're up first. Sam, what do you think about somebody, a group, an organization, a power such as Facebook, making sure that you as a conservative voter can't get the news on a trending basis?
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate you letting me know what's going on. However, I think the issue with Facebook is pretty simple. What you have is a lot of my friends on my Facebook. We're all conservative, and we talk about all the issues. Okay, that goes in between with all of us. Anything that comes into Facebook is not what we're talking about. We don't get, we get our news from other sources. So
well, you get your sources from places such as Newsmax and other sources like that. We understand that. But these are people who are systematically, allegedly, trying to make sure that people on those pages do not hear a certain opinion side of the news. That's got to bother you.
Well, yeah, it does. Because, see, all my kids, I have 8 of them, all my kids do get their news from Facebook. Because of me, I'm able to work with them. And believe me, my children are not all conservative. They're probably more Bernie Sanders.
My God, Sam, what happened?
Well,
Sam, tell us, please. We're here to save your children, Sam.
I taught my children to think. But you know what? They listen to me.
Okay.
Well,
it's good to see, at least they have a dad that and a parent and somebody, a leader, if you will, who actually takes them by the hand and tries to teach them how to think, because quite frankly, it would seem that's what's missing a lot in the country this time around. Sam, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate the call. 1-877-NEWSMAX here on the hard line. David from Texas, you're up. Go.
Well, what's going on with Facebook has been going on with the Yahoo news feeds. It's been going on with Google. In other words, this is going on in a broad sector of our whole economy. In other words, it isn't just Facebook. It's Silicon Valley. It's the school systems. And what it is at its core, yes, it's liberalism, but, people need to peel back what that is. And if you peel it back far enough, you're going to find basically a demonic nature. That's the problem.
Well, I don't think we're going to get quite into demon worshiping here this evening because, quite frankly, we did not bring anything that has a 666 next to it. But I think we'll move on here and go to something a little more political. David, thanks so much for joining us. Michael from Bridgeport, Pennsylvania. I got about 30 seconds, Michael, on Facebook.
Hey, I just wanted to say to you, a lot of these media places are just designed to brainwash their point of view other than the Republicans do. I mean, because back in the 80s and 90s, when you wanted to find a job, all you had to do was look at a paper, and it would be.
Well, Michael, I tell you what, I think we lost you. We dropped you. Your phone was really bad. Please get a new one. But something I do want to tell you. This conversation comes down to something that I have said for a long time. You're an intelligent voter. You're an individual in America. The internet allows you billions of choices and chances to read, to listen, to research. Do not ever take it from something like Facebook. You come to a place like Newsmax.com where you get the reality of what goes on, research what you do, learn, and don't just take it from what's nothing more than a rumor site with kiddie videos.